And let's see if we can finish the Undertakers. Same thing. You've got a jackal and a vulture called the adjunct, a crocodile called the mugger, all sitting talking about stuff they do. Crocodile's pretty proud. Um, he's kind of trying to trick the jackal into letting him eat him. He's telling him to look for a bullet that's lodged behind one of his plates on his back, and the jackal's not buying into it. So let's pick up from there. Over much civility it is sometimes no better than over much discourtesy, for, as the saying is, one can choke a guest with curds. I do not desire that any children of thine should know that the mugger took his only wound from a woman. They will have much else to think of it, if they get their meat as miserably as does their father. It is forgotten long ago. It was never said. There never was a white woman. There was no boat. Nothing whatever happened at all. The jackal waved his brush to show how completely everything was wiped out of his memory, and sat down with an air. Indeed, very many things happened, said the mugger, beaten in his second attempt that night to get the better of his friend. Neither bore malice, however. Eat and be eaten was fair law along the river, and the jackal came in from his share of plunder when the mugger had finished a meal. I left the boat and went upstream, and when I had reached Ara and the backwaters behind it, there were no more dead English. The river was empty for a while. Then came one or two dead in red coats, not English, but of one kind all, Hindus and Purbis, then 5 and 6 abreast, and at last, from Ara to the north, beyond Agra, it was as though the whole village had walked into the water. They came out of little creeks, one after another, as the logs come down in the rains. When the river rose, they rose also in companies from the shoals they had rested upon, and the falling flood dragged with it across the fields and through the jungle by the long hair. All night, too, going north, I heard the guns, and by day the shod feet of men crossing fords, and that noise which a heavy cartwheel makes on sand under water, and every ripple brought more dead. At last even I was afraid, for I said, if this thing happen to men, how shall the mugger of Muggergot escape? There were boats, too, that came up behind me without sails, burning continually as the cotton boats sometimes burn, but never sinking. Ah, said the adjunct, boats like those come by Calcutta of the south. They are tall and black. They beat up the water behind them with a tail. Then they are thrice as big as my village. My boats were low and white. They beat up the water on either side of them, and were no longer than the boats of one who speaks truth should be. They made me very afraid, and I left water, and went back to this my river, hiding by day, and walking by night. When I could not find little streams to help me, I came to my village again, but I did not hope to see any of my people there. Yet they were plowing and sowing and reaping and going to and fro in their fields as quietly as their own cattle. Was there still good food in the river? Said the jackal. More than I had any desire for, even I, and I do not eat mud. Even I was tired, and as I remember, a little frightened of this constant coming down of the silent ones. I heard my people say in my village that all the English were dead, but those that came face down with the current were not English, as my people saw. Then my people said that it was best to say nothing at all, but to pay the tax and plough the land. After a long time the river cleared, and those that came down it had been clearly drowned by the floods, as I could well see. And though it was not so easy then to get food, I was heartily glad of it. A little killing here and there is no bad thing, but even the mugger is sometimes satisfied, as the saying goes. Marvelous, most truly marvelous, said the jackal. I am become fat through merely hearing about so much good eating, and afterward, what if it be permitted to ask, did the protector of the poor do? I said to myself, and by the right and left of Gunga, I locked my jaws on that vow. I said I would never go roving any more. So I lived by the Ghat, very close to my own people, and I watched over them year by year, and they loved me so much that they threw marigold wreaths at my head whenever they saw it lift. Yes, and my fate has been very kind to me, and the river is good enough to respect my poor and infirm presence only. No one is happy from his beak to his tail, said the adjunct sympathetically. What does the mugger of Muggergot need more? That little white child which I did not get, said the mugger with a deep sigh. He was very small, but I have not forgotten. I am old now, but before I die it is my desire to try one new thing. It is true they are a heavy-footed, noisy, and foolish people, and the sport would be small, but I remember the old days above Benares, and if the child lives he will remember still. It may be he goes up and down the bank of some river, telling how he once passed his hands between the teeth of the Mugger Ghat, and lived to make a tale of it. My fate has been very kind, but that plagues me sometimes in my dreams, the thought of the little white child in the bows of that boat. He yawned and closed his jaws. And now I will rest and think. Keep silent, my children, and respect the aged. He turned stiffly and shuffled to the top of the sandbar, while the jackal drew back with the adjunct to the shelter of a tree, stranded on the edge of the nearest railway bridge. That was a pleasant and profitable life, he grinned, looking up inquiringly at the bird who towered above him. And not once, mark you, did he think fit to tell me where a morsel might be left along the banks, yet I have told him 100 times of good things wallowing downstream. How true is the saying, all the world forgets the jackal and the barber when the news has been told. Now he is going to sleep. Arr! How can a jackal hunt with a mugger? Said the adjunct coolly. Big thief and little thief, it is easy to say who gets the pickings. The jackal turned, whining impatiently, and was going to curl himself up under the tree trunk when suddenly he cowered and looked up through the draggled branches at the bridge almost above his head. What now? Said the adjunct, opening his wings uneasily. Wait till we see. The wind blows from us to them, but they are not looking for us, those two men. Men, is it? My office protects me. All India knows I am holy. The adjunct, being a first-class scavenger, is allowed to go where he pleases. And this one never flinched. And so this one never flinched. I am not worth a blow from anything better than an old shoe, said the jackal, and listened again. Hark to that footfall, he went on. That was no country leather, but the shod foot of a whiteface. Listen again. Iron hits iron up there. It is a gun. Friend, those heavy-footed English are coming to speak with the mugger. Warn him, then. He was called protector of the poor by some, not unlike a starving jackal, but a little time ago. Let my cousin protect his own hide. He has told me again and again there is nothing to fear from the white faces. They must be white faces. Not a villager, a Mugger Ghat, would dare to come after them. See, I said it was a gun. Now, with good luck, we shall feed before daylight. He cannot hear well out of water. This time, it is not a woman. A shiny barrel glittered for a minute in the moonlight on the girders. The mugger was lying on the sandbar as still as his own shadow, his 4 feet spread out a little, his head dropped between them, snoring like a mugger. A voice on the bridge whispered, It's an odd shot. Straight down almost, but as safe as houses. Better try behind the neck. Golly, what a brute. The villagers will be wild if he's shot, though. He's a deoter, godling of these parts. Don't care a rap, another voice answered. He took about 15 of my best coolies while the bridge was building, and it's time he was put a stop to. I've been after him in a boat for weeks. Stand by with the martini as soon as I've given him both barrels of this. Mind the kick, then. A double 4 bore's no joke. That's for him to decide. Here goes. There was a roar like the sound of a small cannon. The biggest sort of elephant rifle is not very different from some artillery, and a double streak of flame followed by the stinging crack of a martini whose long bullet makes nothing of a crocodile's plates, but the explosive bullets did the work. One of them struck just behind the mugger's neck, a hand's breadth to the left of the backbone, while the other burst a little lower down at the beginning of the tail. In 99 cases out of 100, a mortally wounded crocodile can scramble to deep water and get away, but the mugger of Mugger Got was literally broken into 3 pieces. He hardly moved his head before the life went out of him, and he lay as flat as the jackal. "Thunder and lightning! Lightning and thunder!" said the miserable little beast. "Has the thing that pulls the covered carts over the bridge tumbled at last?" "It is no more than a gun," said the adjunct, though his very tail feathers quivered. "Nothing more than a gun. He is certainly dead. Here come the white faces." The 2 Englishmen had hurried down from the bridge and across the sandbar where they stood admiring the length of the mugger. Then a native with an axe cut off the big head, and the 4 men dragged it across the spit. "The last time I had my hand in the mugger's mouth," said one of the Englishmen, stooping down. He was the man who had built the bridge. "It was when I was about 5 years old, coming down the river by boat to Monga. I was a mutiny baby, as they called it. Poor mother was in the boat too, and she often told me how she fired Dad's old pistol at the beast's head. Well, you've certainly had your revenge on the chief of the clan, even if the gun has made your nose bleed. Hi, you boatman, haul that head to the bank and we'll boil it for the skull. The skin's too knocked about to keep. Come along to bed now. This was worth sitting up for all night, wasn't it?" Curiously enough, the jackal and the adjunct made the very same remark not 3 minutes after the men had left. So it was an all-right story, and here's the poem to go with it. The Ripple Song. Once a ripple came to land, in the golden sunset burning, lapped against a maiden's hand, by the ford returning. Dainty foot and gentle breast, here across, be glad and rest. Maiden, wait, the ripple saith. Wait a while, for I am death. Where my lover calls, I go. Shame it were to treat him coldly. 'Twas a fish that circled so, turning over boldly. Dainty foot and tender heart, wait the loaded ferry cart. Wait, ah wait, the ripple saith. Maiden, wait, for I am death. When my lover calls, I haste. Dame Disdain was never wedded. Ripple, ripple round her waist, clear the current eddied. Foolish heart and faithful hand, little feet that touch no land, far away the ripple sped. Ripple, ripple, turning red. A little bit cryptic, goes well with the enormous crocodile. Kind of got a similar punishment at the end. Instead of getting thrown into the sun by an elephant, got shot by 2 hunters, and one of them was the kid whose hand he tried to eat years and years ago, who built the bridge to save other people from getting eaten. Of course, the racist part of it, we mentioned the coolies, which is a name for Chinese slaves who probably helped build the bridge. So that's the end of The Undertakers by Rudyard Kipling.